And then you just breathe, trying to get the right hips forward so that we're not just sitting into our right thigh, right? There's a lot of movement here. Pushing down the right big toe. Good, and then inhale, we're gonna come all the way back up, warrior two, and then let's straighten the leg, release. And then we'll put a little bend in that left leg, kind of heel toe it again, back up, and then we come to stand at the front. Cool.
That's awesome.
That's a warrior sequence.
Fingers. Now
Cool.
Warrior. What else?
Then there's, I was gonna do like a lunge sequence
Okay.
where we're on the ground and you can do there's so many things to do from this position.
Yeah.
I like to bring for beginners, it's hands here with the chest forward, hip flexor.
Yeah.
And then with the blocks, you do runner's lunge, which is from here where you bring it back. This one,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you bring the leg in, you can do twists. You can do 1,000 things from here. So I was
Yeah.
gonna do a little sequence on the knees.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think that's
Okay,
what you said. That was awesome.
all right.
Because a lot of the people that are watching, at least from my clients, I'm sure their company will probably do the same. So tight hamstrings, tight lower back, they're
Yeah.
all, ties up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll get us there from standing, just in case we need that
Yeah, and
transition.
then, you can do it from anywhere.
Cool.
Jack
So we'll bring the feet again hip width apart, set up nice in our Tadasana like we did past couple times. Inhale, reach the arms up, and exhale to bend the knees, swan dive forward. This time bend the knees so much that the hands come down. Inhale to lift the chest, and on the exhale we're going to step the right leg back. Good. So you want it pretty wide, you can kind of again heel toe that leg back, and then drop your right knee and drop the top of your right foot. So what's most important here is that your left ankle and your left knee are in one line. Sometimes there's a tendency to roll over it. This is problematic, and then there's also not that great if you have a wider angle. So you want to find that good alignment here with the knee and the ankle in the same line. From here, we're going to bring at first our hands onto the knees. Inhale and exhale. And then let's bring our hand up to the thigh so we get a little bit of height. Inhale and exhale here. And from here, we're just leaning into the front right hip flexor. It's a really tight area for most people. So you just take it to where it feels good. You don't want to ever go past your comfort zone, but you can teeter on the edge. And that's where you'll find a little bit of growth. So you find your edge, whatever feels good, and then see if you can soften it. Right? So the point of kind of holding these poses is that so over time we can start to open them, but so that we just soften them. We're not trying to tug and war anything open. A stretch isn't so much a pull, it's more of a release. So you just kind of release your hip flexor here. And again, being aware of the breath, any sensations coming up, sometimes the heart rate can get faster here. Again, even though we're not moving that much. Good, so we're gonna bring our right hand down to a block. And any setting works, you can even use the floor, just like the block, it just gives me more height. And I like the flat setting, of course any setting that works for you works. Bring the right hand down. And at first you just work at getting your left shoulder back. So you can bring your hand right onto your hip, or you can keep it on the knee at first, whatever helps you get the left shoulder back and the chest to face the left leg as much as you can. Be aware of the right wrist. You don't want to fall too much into it. There's a little pull up out of the right arm. Good, so you just take a gentle twist here. And then inhale, reach the left arm up. And exhale. And then inhale again. And exhale, left hand comes back down to the floor. You can get rid of the right block just for a second. So from here, we're going to bring our hips back and we're going to start to straighten out the front left leg. So the blocks are definitely going to come into good use here. We're going to have both of them on the highest setting. So at first, you want to get your right leg in line. You can always tuck the toes. It's okay for balance, or if it just feels better on your ankle. And then make sure that your knee and your hip are in one line. So we're not trying to roll back. We're actually going to stay forward on the hip. So gently, let's bring the left hip back, right hip forward, so that we kind of balance out the hip bones, right? We're trying to square them off. You can bring your hands down onto the blocks or up. From here, we're gonna straighten out the left leg, bring the toes up towards the ceiling. Take a big inhale first. And on the exhale, you just bring your chest forward, right? Leave the head back. Your hips are reaching back. You're actually trying to get a little back bend here. Nothing too crazy, but the stretch will come from the torso reaching forward and the chest dropping down. You're gonna feel this tremendous stretch in the back of your left leg. It could even go from your ankle all the way up through the glutes and up to the lower back. But you won't get that stretch if you're round here. So there's no point in rounding and falling forward. The stretch is gonna come from reaching the hips back, the chest forward, and then just looking wherever your sternum faces, right? So there's no cringing of the neck here. Nice open back. And this is pretty intense. It's definitely a heat building pose. So you just breathe through it. Noticing what comes up. Not trying to control anything except for maybe a slow breath. But just trying to soften again so that it can open. Good. So we're gonna walk the blocks forward for a second as you roll forward onto your front left leg. And then we're gonna take the left leg back just a bit so that we can come off the blocks and that we're square now. Good. So we're gonna take the left hand to the left hip. Inhale, reach your right arm up, the palm faces to the right. And on the exhale, we're gonna take a twist, bringing the back of your right hand to your left leg. Good, so then from here, you take a nice big inhale. And on the exhale, you just take your sternum to wherever it faces, right? And if it's not enough for you, you can always bring the elbow to the knee. It's kind of nice to stay up here because it's easier to breathe. So sometimes when we come down, there's a tendency for everything to get small here. You can pull up, out, make sure there's space between your chest and your leg. It's kind of just nice to stay up though. Good. And then we look forward first. Inhale. Exhale, hands down to release. And from here, we're going to bring the left leg back. And in our tabletop, you can remove the blocks if they're in your way. You can inhale here. And exhale, we're just going to sit back and to child's pose just for a moment. If child's pose feels good for you. So you can always come onto the elbows. You can try and get your head down. You can always bring it to a block. And arms can come back by your side, palms face up. This allows your shoulders to roll forward. It just feels nice. So wherever your rest pose is, take a rest here. Right? Come back to the breath, come back to your heart rate. Come back to any sensations going on and just let everything settle for a second. Breathing, releasing, letting everything come back to kind of a point A, point zero, recalibrating. Good, and then slowly, we're gonna come back up onto all fours on an inhale. And on the exhale, let's bring the right leg forward now. Good, so we'll set up for the second side. We'll get our blocks. But at first, we're gonna bring the hands onto the knees. And then we'll bring our hands onto the thigh. And in order to lean here, you might have to scoot the left leg back a bit. Because again, if you're having the right knee over the ankle, you've gone too far. So you just find whatever placement is good for your hips. And feet are flat on this one. Yes, feet are flat. Good, so we have our hands on our thighs, trying to get the left hip forward, right hip back just a bit. And then again, falling gently into that left hip flexor. You can even start to feel it throughout your psoas and deep into the ab tissues, through the hip flexor, into your quad. Right, it's a pretty big front body stretch here. And just try to breathe through it, right? You can send your breath, try to imagine it going to the places that kind of need it the most. Good, so we'll take the block underneath the left hand like we did on the opposite side. And at first we'll bring our right hand to the right hip. And then just inhale, take a gentle twist to the right. And exhale, maybe look by that right arm, or you can always look down, but be careful not to fall into that left shoulder. Gently pull up out of it. Good. The right leg's gonna wanna sprawl over to the right. Just gently keep it in. Good, and then inhale, reach the right arm up. And exhale, we'll bring it back down. So you can bring your hands now onto both blocks. And we're gonna walk the blocks back and start to straighten the front right leg now for the runner's lunge on the second side. So foot can be tucked here. Again, this is a balance thing, so wherever it's better for you. But again, knee and hip are in one line, and that's where they'll remain. So we inhale here, lift the chest forward. And on the exhale, you bring the hips back, kind of create a little back bend, and reach your chest forward. Good, and then the more you spread through the right toes and lift them up towards the ceiling, in combination with the arch in our back, you'll get a huge stretch, right, in the back of your right leg now. And it can go the entirety of the leg, even up through the glute and your lower back. So it's kind of nice to sit here for a moment and let everything sort of settle in, release, maybe open up just a bit. Always a little slight tuck of the belly button in towards the spine, right? We never want to let that kind of hang, even though sometimes it's easy to. Good, and then from here to release, you just come back to a neutral spine, walk the blocks forward, roll back onto the front right foot, and then we'll just scoot it back a bit. So now we're all square here, setting up for that twist. Good. So from here, let's bring the right hand to the waist. Inhale, reach your left arm up, palm faces to the right. And on the exhale, you can bring your back of the right hand to your, left hand to your right leg. Or you can always bring the elbow, but just be mindful of where you're at. You just want a gentle twist here. Try to get the left hip forward just a little bit, right hip back, and more of the belly button to turn towards the right within reason. And you can look over the right shoulder if that feels good. If not, you can always look forward. One more inhale here. And then exhale, we'll look forward to release. Hands come down. We'll get the blocks out of the way. From here, we're going to tuck the back left toes. Inhale here. And on the exhale, lift your hips and just scoot back for downward facing dog. Knees bent, hips up, chest reaching towards the thighs, arms straight, and your head gently reaching towards the earth, right towards your hands. Try to get that long neck. Navel in towards the spine, pulling upward energy, right, Mula Bandha. Good, and then inhale here. And exhale, we'll come onto all fours. Cool. And then you can sit back in child's pose. Take a rest here. And if child's pose isn't a good rest for you, you can always come on to your belly. You can bring the hands underneath the head. The toes come together and the heels fall apart, because I understand that child's pose is not for everyone. So your rest pose might be completely different from someone else's. So a good variation is to come onto the belly, kind of just let the hands fall, your head fall into your hands. All right. So from child's pose, we're going to take the arms out in front of us, and slowly we're going to roll forward, come onto the belly. Good. So we're going to start with a little Sphinx pose, which is a nice gentle back bend. We're going to take the feet flat. The feet are about, again, hip width apart, maybe a little closer, but definitely not wider. And from here, we're on our bellies. We bring our hands by our side. To inhale, lift the chest up, and then you slide the elbows forward, kind of like a Sphinx. So the elbows, it depends on your back, can be underneath the arms. They can definitely be more forward. This is more gentle. So you can find whatever feels good for you. It doesn't matter as long as the elbows are in line with the shoulders, right? They're not sprawling out or not falling down. As long as they are all in line, it doesn't matter where the elbows are. Good. So take a second just to bring some attention to your glutes and your thighs and notice if they're tense. And if they are, release them. Because there's a tendency here to kind of squeeze everything in, but that can kind of hurt the SI joints, so we're going to stay away from that. So you can allow the heels to go a little wider, and that'll kind of inwardly rotate those legs so that they kind of release a little bit. And from here, you're going to inhale, look forward, and on the exhale, just look to the right. And then inhale, look forward, and exhale, we look to the left. And inhale, look forward, and exhale, tuck your chin. And we're going to stay here for a few breaths. So in the Sphinx pose with our chin tucked, you can feel a really big stretch in your upper back. You want to bring the elbows, there's like an imaginative pull back of the elbows. They're not moving, but there's an engagement here to allow the shoulders to really creep away from the ears. And again, the scapula to go down your back. So there's a little engagement here of the elbows. Again, always trying to spread through your clavicle bones, the chest bones. And then the chin tucked, you can really let it hang while you gently pull the shoulders away. You can feel a good stretch here. And just breathe. Good, and then slowly inhale, lift the head up. And on the exhale, we're going to bring our hands behind us so the palms face up. We'll bring our left cheek to the mat first. Bring the toes together, and then really let the heels go wide so that the kneecaps kind of roll in towards one another. And you can allow your hips and your lower back to really release here. And just take a couple breaths. Good, so from here we're going to bring our chin down. Let's bring the heels up towards the ceiling, kind of like the same position they were just in. And then let's inhale, lift the arms, bring them forward again for a little Sphinx. But this time we're going to take a block and we're going to place it around